Hey, y'all, and welcome to What Could Possibly Go Wrong, the podcast where two neurodivergent friends speak about the crossroads of deep anxieties, imagination, and humor. I'm here with my friend Lyndzy. Linz, make some noise for yourself.
Auga, auga.
All right, and maybe a brief introduction.
Hi, I'm Lyndzy. I'm a teacher. I'm a gamer. I enjoy all of the glitty, the shiny, and the macabre. And I like hanging out with my friend, Ari.
Thank you. My name is Ariel. I am a travel medical worker, van lifer, and psychological enthusiast, true crime connoisseur. And that's not to convince anybody that I have an iota of intelligence on anything, but more to say that 99% of what comes out of my mouth is to enjoy the sound of my own voice. All right. And let's settle into our armchairs of unpracticed and tattered pieces of our psychological degrees and psychological problems, and let's examine what could possibly go wrong. So today I was going to have a little bit of an Ariel centric episode and talk to you about what could possibly go wrong if there were a species out there that collected us like we collected seashells.
I have to tell you that since we did the prequel episode, I have waited. And every week when I ask you, which one do you want to do next week? Okay, I was waiting for you to say this episode. And now that you have,
Yeah.
I have come prepared and I want to know.
I love it. I love it. So, I think one of the points of the podcast, right, is to really kind of lean into this whole neurodivergent thought, right? And really explore the kind of like creative ideas and anxieties, but like in a safe space. So,
Absolutely.
yeah. So like what is the possibility that there is intelligent life out there? And practically in all sense of the terms, it's pretty close to zero. But we'll discuss this a little bit more. So back in 1961, there at the very first meeting of our favorite organization, SETI, um, there was a man named Frank Drake who said, "Actually, let me think about this," and came up with an equation, a very simple equation of what is the possibility of intelligent life. And to break it down real simply, he took all of the variables of like the magnitude of our sun and inhabitable planets and the distance from our planet so that they could communicate with us, and he just put them all as variables and multiplied them all together basically. Now the beauty of this is that as we collect data and as our measuring gets more accurate, this equation we can fill in because they're all variables. The infuriating part is any point, if one of those variables is zero, the chances of intelligent life goes down to zero.
Mm.
Now, one of the best things that I discovered in my search for intelligent life was that just a couple of years ago, two men in England at the University of Nottingham or something, they came up with a solution to this by entering all of the variables. And I want you to take a guess at the number that they came up with.
0.
No, come on. It's exciting. It's an exciting one.
It's an exciting number. Oh, 42.
Aha! I too was very disappointed that it wasn't 42.
Oh no.
It was 36.
Oh, it's like almost 42. I mean,
Almost.
really. 36 is the new 42 now. You can't convince me
Exactly.
otherwise. But anyway,
Exactly.
continue.
I was so pissed it wasn't 42. But I knew you were going to guess that one. So anyway, yes, they guessed that there was 36, and of course more scientists came along and ripped them to shreds and said, no way is that even remotely possible. There are not 36 planets in which intelligent life could be formed in the universe.
Why not?
Well, they said that the math was off and that, the certain variables were overly stretched and really it needs to be a more complicated equation. And so, but also excitingly, they didn't suggest that it was zero. They said it
Yeah.
was very low, but they didn't say zero. And so
I'm really
that's
glad
that,
it wasn't zero. I'm sorry I
right?
interrupted you. I'm really glad it
No,
wasn't zero
me
because
too. There's
that was
no
why it's my
way,
first guess. I'm like, worst possible answer first.
right? But yeah, no, so the possibility still remains. It's very small, but the possibility remains. Now that we've covered like the science attribute, let's get into, so the possibility of intelligent life coming here, communicating with us, very small. But if they thought that we were beautiful enough to collect, what would that entail? So I have a few credentials in the field of the human body, but again, don't let me, confuse you into saying that this is something that I know a lot about. But the Tennessee Body Farm said that the human body
I'm
begins to
sorry. The what?
the Tennessee Body Farm. Oh, I didn't realize you didn't know this existed. So Oak Ridge University in Tennessee has a very spotted history. First, they have a nuclear reactor science there, but also they have a body farm where they study decomposing of human tissue by throwing bodies out into this field into different various situations, some submerged in water, some left out to the flies, others covered in plastic. And this is where almost all of our data on FBI
Forensic.
forensic science comes from.
Oh,
Yeah. So
wow.
yes, yes,
Like
and
my career counselor didn't tell me about that job when I was
I
younger.
know.
That would have been something. I apologize.
No.
I had to know.
Yes,
Please.
absolutely, and it didn't even occur to me that other people would not know about this thing. This is, I learned about this in forensic anthropology in college, which is where some of my credentialing comes from.
Mhm.
And yes, there was no higher goal in my mind than to do research at the body farm. And I'm still tempted to go do like a master's or something, and involve that.
That's amazing.
It is very amazing. I very much love everything they do there. So, since they are the experts in the field of body decomposition, they stated that body decomposition basically starts 4 minutes after death.
Mhm.
Now, medically speaking, death is a tricky subject. You would not think so. You're like, that person is dead. Cool. Well, brain death, heart death, metabolism death, all of these things are very different, and we parse them very, very differently in the medical world. And so we are just gonna leave it at death and let everybody assume whatever that is in their own mind. So 4 minutes after death, which means the aliens would have to collect us within that 4 minutes. Now, assuming that they have similar technologies that we do, I'm going to also give you the ability to guess here of how you think they would preserve us. Like, what fluids would they use?
Well, it depends. Do you want a juicy version of us or do you want an Egyptian version of us? Because honestly, sometimes things are prettier when they're dried out. And I would go with natron salt.
That's actually a really good idea that I hadn't fully considered. I was thinking more of the wet preservation, right?
Hmm.
Because definitely in the field that I currently work, we deal with living tissue removed almost immediately from the body, and
Hmm.
then we have to stop that decaying process. Excuse me,
Hmm.
I'm gonna just stumble over that word 1,000 times. Um, and so what we do is we preserve it almost immediately in a formaldehyde solution.
That's what I figured. That was my second
Yeah,
guess, but my first one has to go back to the Egyptians. It's
of
like,
course,
wait,
of course.
mummies are pretty.
Yes, absolutely. So yes, we use formaldehyde in the medical world and in the embalming world too, for funeral home directors and things like that. They will use embalming fluid, which is mainly a formaldehyde solution. One of the problems, though, is that formaldehyde only penetrates about 1 millimeter of tissue per hour.
Hmm.
And you have to have about a 10 10 times the volume of formaldehyde as you are for the preserving item.
Right.
So this is should be starting to lead you down a horrific realization that they would either have to skin us like taxidermy
Hmm.
or have a way to pump their formaldehyde through all of the tiny vessels in the most efficient way, which would be our heart.
Mhm.
Meaning we might have to be quasi alive to start the preservation process for this intelligent life form to keep us as pretty as we initially were.
So we've gone to abductions now, living abductions as opposed to dead collections.
That's right.
Hmm.
Because as you probably know from your mummy guess, that when you start to preserve and dry things, the colors change.
Yep.
And wouldn't the most beautiful preservation be one that you could see all the pretty colors? This started to like get me to start to think about like the Audubon Society, how they initially started killing the birds and like taxidermying them in order to preserve the colors and stuff.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. So, yes, we would either have to be taxidermied almost immediately after death because 4 minutes we start to decay. Um, and then we would have to be skinned and put into that skin put into a very large vat of formaldehyde
Mhm. So
for
the
many
skin would
days.
probably be like a byproduct. Like they
Right.
probably go all like, human skin lampshade.
Yes, I was gonna say Ed Gein leather-esque decor.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Um, or, because that would be like the drying method, right? Leathers are
Right.
cured. Or we would have to be live abducted and forcibly pumped full of preservation liquid. And then, again, in my business, we tend to remove the formaldehyde and water from it once we've preserved those cells and
Hmm.
replace it with either a wax or resin.
Hmm.
And anyone who's had the joy of the body museum should know exactly what that looks like. Um, Now, of course, my concern was once again preserving the beauty of the skin on the outside, right? Because that's really what we're looking at. And you would also be able to recognize in the body's exhibit that always the skin was a little too taut, a little too tight, or
Hmm.
not present at all, because it's very, very difficult to stop that decay process. And obviously, these bodies were dead when they collected them. So they
True.
just wanted to preserve the single structures of muscles or the single structures of the capillaries or things like that.
So it's
So,
probably after the 4 minutes, most likely, and so it had already
yes,
set in. Okay, I get that.
absolutely, absolutely. So, yes, in order to preserve that skin, we would have we the space aliens would have to collect that body almost immediately towards death and pump it full of formaldehyde.
Oh, you're gonna end up on a list for that. That's
Yes, I don't.
like we're not on it already. Like both
I
of us
was
don't have
gonna
a
say
file about this big, like in some FBI cabinet somewhere, and now we're just making, public files for them.
public
Uh,
files. Honestly, with what's in my Google history and what I consume for enjoyment, I've been on that list for a long time.
Same.
So that's my conclusion of intelligent life forms collecting us and preserving us, like seashells.
Okay, so now we have to delve a little bit into the realm
Yeah.
of psychology behind it too. Because when you look at it, there's a number of people who were serial killers that collected body parts for specific reasons. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So if we were going off of that as to what would be desirable to collect and not what the body farm would be looking for, what would we be looking at? We would be looking at what, like hair and eyes and like who was it? Dahmer collected some stuff from people. So, I
Absolutely.
mean, because if they're collecting our bodies, they might not want the whole body. There might just be a preferable section. Looking into the abnormal psychology of humans can kind of put us there. But then you have to ask yourself, is it more desirable to have abnormal things or is it more desirable to have natural things? Like, do you want somebody who has tattoos versus somebody who doesn't have tattoos? Uh, Again, if we go back to our friend Dahmer, people with tattoos don't taste as good. So, in a way that helps us while we're here. But if we're talking about alien abductions from other planets, will that help us with them or will that make it more desirable? Will I be the starry night on someone's wall one day in outer space? I don't know. Or even our hair color, like rabbit's feet. People collect rabbit's feet and then they dye it different colors and take it places with them. would people who have like manic panic-esque hair be the people that are taken by the aliens, or would it be the people who are like,
I hope
this is
so.
such a pretty natural color forever, forever? I mean, alien psychology would be kind of hard to determine.
It
All we
would
really
be.
know is us.
Exactly. And I was going to interrupt and say that, like, the reason why serial killers kind of wanted to collect those body parts is because they thought that they were, like, really, really cool, right? They
Mhm,
wanted to have they wanted to take that thing that they thought was really cool or pretty and, own it, right? So,
mhm,
they really put those kind of looks up on a pedestal, if you will, right?
mhm.
That, Ted Bundy loved the middle parted hair and, I don't even know
Was
what
it
Ed
middle
Gein.
parted hair? Oh
Yes,
yeah.
it was
Because I'm sorry, I'm
brown,
just like
middle
thinking of all
parted
the
hair.
pictures.
Yeah,
I'm so
brown,
glad I part my
with
hair on the side now.
right?
Um,
Go millennials. I actually brought
yay!
that up to some Gen Zers, and I was like, "Why'd you guys part it down the middle? Ted Bundy was real."
He used this. Oh my
Oh,
gosh,
yeah.
that's so crazy. Or like Leatherface, for example,
Ooh,
pretty faces to put on, right? Like
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And so, like, would interspecies find those traits as beautiful as, a serial killer does?
they might find really weird things like eyebrows.
Oh.
These are some really great eyebrows.
That's true. And I was actually thinking too, I think, call me crazy, but I think vitiligo is really pretty, you
I
know?
do too. No, I really
Um,
do.
so that is definitely unique and something I would consider collectible.
And yeah, I guess. Oh my gosh. So crazy. I mean, crazy but true. I
Yeah.
mean, I guess it would be like the equivalent on a lesser crazy level of what do people look for in romantic partners. I mean, that's pretty extensive. I've heard people say all kinds of different things. The guys that have the thumbs that don't look like the toes, is that really a requirement for you? But I swear, I heard it once.
Okay. That's valid. I too have heard a many crazy thing come out of people's faces, when trying to determine their partner for life.
Indeed. Huh.
So, what could go right?
What could possibly go right with aliens collecting us? Immortality. I mean, because obviously at some point the human race is going to destroy itself. So at
Yeah,
least we'll exist in a jar somewhere on some other planet. It could be like, hey, this is a piece of one of those humans. Don't you really like their eyebrow? And it'll be a way for us to go on forever.
actually, I like that thought because what if there was, like, after a while, a conservation effort? Like, hey, this species is gonna go extinct. Let's keep them in the zoo like the Twilight Zone episode.
Yes. Oh
Mhm.
man. Except the thing that comes down is the claw from Toy Story. The claw. I have been chosen.
I
Oh
love
my
it.
god. But no, I love
Love
that
it.
Twilight Zone episode, by the way.
Oh my
Like
god.
just
Yeah, it's a good
Rod
one.
Serling was a visionary. So at least we don't get Dahmer aliens. That would be my favorite episode, To Serve Man.
Don't get on that ship. The rest of the book, To Serve Man, it's a cookbook.
It's a cookbook. No.
It's a cookbook for
Yeah. Oh my god.
humans. No, I do. I love that one. That was a good one too. All right. Well, I think we have explored this idea a little bit and maybe put our toes at the barriers of some other rabbit holes we can jump down in the future.
Agreed.
So thank you for joining us for this episode of What Could Possibly Go Wrong. I hope you enjoyed the rabbit trails and hopeful hilarity of when intrusive thoughts meet reality. Stay safe and remember to ask for help if you need it. Bye.
Bye.